Hey everybody, this is Corbett Barr from Think Traffic, and I am at the lovely, shall I say, beautiful home of Chase Reeves in Portland, Oregon. And I'm here with Chase because Chase is the man behind the new design of Think Traffic. And this is the first time that we're introducing Chase, sort of unveiling you to the world, I think.
Some people coming into society party.
Yeah, we hinted a few times at this mystery designer that we had at Think Traffic, and so I wanted to sit down with you today, basically to talk about the work you did at Think Traffic and to give people some pointers on coming up with their own design. We also want to share some of the results that we've gotten from Think Traffic because it's been pretty impressive. So, welcome.
Can I just say that you have beautiful eyes, Corbin? I don't know why I didn't notice that before.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, we spent so much time in close quarters, but you have beautiful eyes.
We have. And I should mention that Chase is basically a sweet talker, and that's how he got the gig with Think Traffic.
That's true. That's true.
So, thanks for sitting down.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's start off with, maybe let's talk about how this happened, because I think a lot of times people wonder how you find a designer and how you start working with a designer. And there are designers out there that I guess just advertise their services, and you could go to a website and find somebody. But I've done that before, and I find that the relationship with the designer sometimes is a little bit more important, and a closeness of philosophy in design and aesthetics and whatnot. So so basically, I mean, you and I became friends a while back last year. And it kind of, one thing led to another, I guess. I mean,
cocktails will do that too.
Cocktails will do that, yeah. So I guess I was impressed, and I'm going to give you a chance to talk in a second here. But
I'm not even interested. You're doing such a good job.
I was impressed with your design philosophy, and we had talked a lot about more than just aesthetics. We had talked a lot about business philosophy and this concept of what you called matterful. And I think that's a thing that we really riffed on a lot in the beginning, which is this idea that you don't necessarily have to sacrifice your scruples, your morals. You don't have to make yourself feel uncomfortable. You don't have to look at your customers as simply sales targets. There's a way to do business that is in harmony with who you are and who you want your customers to be. And we really connected on that. And I just felt like, along with your aesthetic sense, those two things would come together well.
Yeah, and I think that was an important, I think for you and for me, that's one of the most important things about what we look like in the world has to come back down into this sort of like, I don't know, with design, like I'll be honest. Can I be honest?
Please.
I'll be honest. I'm not trained as a designer. Like, I'm self-taught, no lessons. I'm trained as a thinker. I have this, religious skeleton in my closet that I pull out from time to time and just snuggle. But that trained me in this concept of like, okay, what matters? What matters? And like all those big juicy questions about what matters about life. And ultimately, I'm still sort of addicted to that question and like sort of trying to find the answer. I don't need an answer, so to speak, but I want everything that I'm a part of to at least matter a little bit. I always look for a way to get my projects into that mode where it's like, okay, this matters. Why? Because we're helping people with some of the biggest problems that they have in their life. They're looking for freedom. They're looking for, all this stuff. So we could rabbit hole on that, but I think that actually says a lot about you, that this connecting on sort of business practices, how we do business, like not needing to be a quote unquote douchebag in order to make money online, not needing to, sort of, I don't know, kind of cut through any meaningful relationship you can have with your audience. Instead, going for this like, no, let's have things that meet this audience's need for the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's something I totally picked up on where you were at. And I was, to be honest, a little bit surprised just because you're an internet guy and
you expect us all to be assholes.
I have the greatest track record with internet guys.
Right.
But that really was. I don't know if it was inspiring to me, but it was just like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's like, people say you have to work and you might as well love what you do. Well, I think you also, if you're building a business, you have to put a lot of time and energy into it to make it work. And so why not make it something meaningful and build it with a little heart?
Yeah.
And so that's something I just felt like you bring that to every project. And so despite not having a whole lot of like evidence that you could take on a project like this. I had seen some of the work that you had done, and it just felt like a good fit. And I got to say, like, it turned out far better than I had hoped. It turned out really, really great, and I just feel really proud of the work that we did.
Well, I have to kind of chalk it up to you did take the gamble. Corbett really took a gamble on me, because really the only work that he had seen me do before was stuff from like 4 or 5 years previous, and then a project that I was in the middle of working on for my wife.
Yeah.
And so you really just took a gamble on me. I mean, you knew that like I could talk a big game, and I actually had good ideas, but just, I mean, and I was a little bit like, every project I get worried, like, am I going to be able to make this thing good? But now, you know, and through Think Traffic, it was actually a huge confidence building thing for me, just to realize like some of the things that we'll get into later, but it's like, it's really not about your quality as a designer so much as it is about your quality as a communicator that matters.
Yeah, and I think that the quality of the design, I mean, a lot of people, you know, kind of go through the motions and they think that design is all about pretty colors and a nice layout, when, as we were talking earlier, like the point of a good design is to showcase all of the things that you're trying to say. And I feel like with our design before, you know, we had the same design for about 2 years, and it was something that I did myself, and I felt like it was good enough to kind of get our message across. But as we got deeper and deeper into this and Think Traffic became a bigger and bigger thing, it was clear that there was some divergence between the design we had and the message we were trying to communicate. And so we wanted to come up with a new design that basically, you know, took all of that concept of being matterful, as well as being cutting edge and letting people know that we're trying to be at the forefront of thinking about all of these issues in terms of online marketing and building businesses and things, and to do it in a fresh, friendly way, and to align ourselves more with the applications of the world that we love, that we know and love, the Woofus and the MailChimps and the, you know, that sort of thing, instead of this creepy internet marketing world that's out there. Yeah. So I think there's this new guard that's happening, and I hope that we're leading that with this design.
I'm like super passionate about it. Just me as a designer, as a communicationist or whatever. I don't know. I have made a decision to only work with people who are doing good work, like have actual value. It's not an all hat and no cattle situation. So I knew enough about you to know that wasn't the case, that you actually did offer value. Like even just today, in the post that you released today, and I don't know when this video will go live, but talking about the results the past month of Think Traffic, you do these monthly summaries, and you mentioned like, this is all we do. There's these 5 points that we do, and will somebody please tell the social media gurus that it's really this simple. You know, we make good content. We help people with the problems that they have. You know what I mean? We are honest and we have integrity about our business practices.
When people overcomplicate things, I think it's basically just to scare potential customers into thinking that you have to work with them because there's all this machinery going on and I don't know how it works. You know, it really is pretty simple. So I want to hear from you. Like, what do you think? What is good design to you? Like, what? You know, why go through this whole exercise? What's the point?
Good question, Corbin. Like I said, I'm not a classically trained designer. I really haven't read much on design. I'm unashamed with the fact that I think I have pretty good taste. Like, not in clothes, clearly, not in friends, of course. But I do have good taste. I know when something's on and when it's off. And to me, the old Think Traffic was off, and I looked at the quality of the content and realized that this could really, like in the whole online, how to make money online, how to do this stuff, it's so inundated with the douchey sort of thing that and anybody can go and get a Woofoo theme, or sorry, not a Woofoo theme, but a Woo theme, and any sort of thing, and now they've got a blog, and now they're a blogger, and now they're an expert. You know what I mean? And where it's like, you've really been doing this for a while. You did have good things to say. I loved that message, like in today's post, about like, it's this simple. Like find an audience that's big enough for you to meet their needs and get paid to do it. You know what I mean? Like if you can't find that audience, then don't make that product. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. It's just basic business, as old as business has ever been, you know? And so, in doing the design, what was the question? My design philosophy, I don't know. It looks good. Like when it looks good, I notice it. Most of the time, I focus on clarity. I don't want to, like, there is so much crap out there online, you know, that when you come through with a very simple, strong, concise image and brand and message, and those things all sync up. It's so like bold and dumb in comparison to a lot of these wild, repeatable textures and gradients and hover over effects and all this stuff. But really, I just think it's been the same ever since we were hand painting signs at a fish market 2,000 years ago. And it was my post, right, or my little stand right next to your stand, and we both sold the same fish. Like, I used a different color or whatever, but or I had an interesting phrase or slogan. But first of all, the fish had to be there. Second of all, maybe they're the same fish. Maybe I went and got a different fish. All these sort of business questions, that's almost more important to the design than the actual, like, the colors and that stuff is actually really easy to do for me. And that's what it was like on this site.
So for you, this process for you with Think Traffic and with the other stuff you're working on, basically, it sounds like it starts with what's the message, who's the audience, what are we trying to convey? Absolutely. It has to start there, like really, like just get down into the core of the importance.
If anybody thinks that this site, the design is successful, and I love the design of the site, I think it is successful. The only reason why that is because Think Traffic already has an understanding about who they're serving, what they're making to serve that audience, like what content and products they're making to serve that audience. And so with those two things, so that's the unique selling proposition. With those two things defined the way they have been over the last 2 years, it was really easy to sense the direction, to sense the tone and the voice and everything, and to kind of like, it didn't give me all the answers that I needed to make the design that we ended up with, but it gave me enough to know that, like, okay, what's currently the design doesn't fit the quality that we're talking about here, and then we want to make sure that we serve this mission of this is the audience that I'm serving, and this is the products and content that I'm making for them. We serve that mission in every little detail that we bring to the site.
So having your differentiation, your core message, all this is important, obviously. But in the beginning, for someone, it seems like it's really hard to have all that dialed in. I mean, Think Traffic's been around for over 2 years, and we've worked hard to kind of hone that message. In the beginning, I'm wondering, as a designer, would it be frustrating to work with someone? And maybe on the other side of the coin, if I'm starting a blog or a website, and I feel like I don't have my message fully fleshed out, and I'm going to pivot a couple of times, maybe it's not worth working so closely with like a high-end, full-on, from the ground up kind of designer. Maybe in that case, you should start with a theme or something until you get it figured out.
Which is kind of, I mean, to me, like I said, the reason why we were able to, like, Think Traffic was ready for a design update because it had been serving an audience for 2+ years, I think, right? 3 years. And you have that traction, you have that audience already, they're subscribing, they want the stuff. You clearly have developed a well-worn path, so to speak. You know who you are. And the design that you started out with, that you used to build that audience, to figure out who you are, just it wasn't lining up with the level of content that you were bringing, So that's when we knew, like, okay, it's ready for something, it's ready for an update. But starting off, I totally recommend just go with a theme. Like, honestly, unless you're starting off as like you were doing this product, this site over here for a while, you've got a couple 100,000 people that are following you around over here, and then you're starting something new. You've got that kind of exposure. Then it's like, okay, we need to take that very seriously, so that it's right, and then it has enough room to grow. You know what I mean? But if you're like, Think Traffic back in the day, I got to imagine, what did you do? Just use a regular theme that you found?
Well, so basically, I mean, I kind of had that year head start where I had built another site and built an audience and so on. So Think Traffic was very premeditated, and I kind of knew the direction I wanted to go. So with the first site, I spent like every other month, I swear, I like totally rechanged everything. Totally. And I even worked with a designer a couple of times, and I've changed that site like so many times, and I feel like it's kind of a waste of effort, because really the message matters, and once you get the message dialed in, then the design can really come in and help. With Think Traffic, I built on top of Thesis and did my own sort of customization to that. But we kind of had a little bit of that head start. We were a little bit further along, I think.
When you initially started Think Traffic.
But what I didn't really get right exactly was sort of this emotional connection with the design. I think that you did a really great job. Just everything from the colors to the little effects and things. It just the site has personality.
Sure, yeah.
The size of the fonts, all that stuff. Like you
Yeah.
dialed that in. But also, we've gotten really incredible results from this new design at Think Traffic, which we're going to share in a second. And I think that's because now we realize that what we want people to do when they come to the site.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
a big part of it, right? What you have to think about when someone gets to your site for the first time, a lot of times immature designs, I think, just throw the kitchen sink at everyone.
Yeah.
It's like, here's 50,000 links and here's like 100,000 things in my sidebar.
Totally, yeah.
And like, and people just, I think they probably just bolt for the nearest exit.
Yeah, well,
right?
it sucks. I mean, it sucks because what you're dealing with is a schizophrenic person. If your
Yeah.
website is a person, it's full of personalities.
Yeah.
Because you've got 100,000 ads over here, all this different stuff, and I don't. That's something that I take. I'm a citizen of the internet. Okay, that's
Yeah.
really what I am. I'm a consumer and I'm a citizen of the internet. I really love. I was just showing you my Bowers and Wilkins headphones.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
And I would never have been able to spend that kind of money on headphones until I get to the level where it's like I just love it that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm the same way with websites and with being on a site and wanting even on my own sites to serve my audience so that when they get there it's like no, this is for you. This is a gift for you. And I want you, so on Think Traffic, there's calls to action all over the place. There's really only one call to action. There's
Right.
just different sort of instances of
Yep.
it. And we're very direct in we would like for you to sign up.
Yep.
To subscribe here. Why?
Yep.
Because we're offering you value.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And this is what we do for a living.
Yeah.
Is we help you solve these problems.
Yeah.
We help you find answers to these questions that you have. And I love a site that can be just confident in that.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like when someone asks you, what do you do for a living? And you're like, well, I kind of do a little of this, I kind of do a little bit of that. Well, it's a clear sign that you just haven't been doing any of it for long enough to know exactly where you land. You know what I mean?
And I think that confidence with your site also, I mean, that's important as an entrepreneur. Like you may not have everything figured out, but you have to be a leader. If you want to grow an audience at all, you kind of have to be confident about where you're at right now and that it's going somewhere in the future. Because if you're the kind of person, if someone comes to your site and you're like, same thing, like, oh, well, I do a little of this and a little of that, then people are like, oh, not worth following.
Yeah.
This person's not.
And I think there's like two edges to that because in the same, like on that, so first of all, there's, I do a little bit of this, I do a little bit of that. It's like, okay, you're like, I don't really know what you do now, and it's sort of in line with that is if you really pick a niche, focus out on a niche, like you've said this to me, if you really pick a niche and that's who you are and what you stand for or what the site represents, then you have the opportunity to talk about everything you ever wanted to.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So this weird, like you start small, this is who you are. And okay, now I have a category for you in my head.
Yep.
And then you end up becoming a bigger thinker. You know what I mean? It's like kind of John Gruber. He just talks about Mac products, but then he talks about a lot of other stuff. But he's just Mac products guy. And I listen to him on all this other stuff.
And that's what makes him so interesting, right? It's because...
But then at the same level is... like for me, my personal sort of thing is always kind of evolving. So and my sites, I'm this raw sort of, I think this, and I might have another post the next week being like, oh, it turns out I was so wrong. Like, don't ever say that to your wife. You know what I mean?
Right.
So part of me loves that authenticity and that honesty part of, that's almost a piece of my brand and of who I am, I guess.
And almost sharing like at your edge, sharing like where you're currently at, letting people see in the kitchen like what you're cooking kind of thing.
Absolutely. So this is going good, right?
Yeah, totally.
I love that. Let's leave that in. This is going good.
Right? It's cool. We were talking about calls to action, and I think this is really important. When someone comes to your site, you want to sort of map out where do you want them to go and what do you want them to do. And with Think Traffic, essentially, we wanted a couple of things. We wanted to hit people hard with our best content, like right up front, and show them what we're known for. Show them the right epic shit posts. Show them the unique selling proposition posts, and get them sort of indoctrinated into who we are and what we're known for. And then also, you were really clever about putting little quotes from people in different places. So it's not just about what we say; it's also about the social proof element. Who's paying attention to us and what are they saying about us. But then all of that basically is to like just like hit people like boom, boom, this is what we're good for, and then try to wrap them up with a call to action to sign up for email updates, basically. And the reason we do that, and the reason that we talk so much about email, especially in blogs, is that there are all these services out there: Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, StumbleUpon, and even RSS.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of ways that people can connect with you, but if you're in their channel, if you're in their Twitter stream, you are one of thousands of updates they might see in a day, and it's easy just to ignore that.
Yeah.
The email is a much more sacred channel, and if you connect with someone over email, it's much more likely that they're going to see you, and also, you've sort of made it over that bar where it's good enough to, give you their email address.
Totally. Yep.
So we decided to go really hard with an email call to action.
Yeah.
And the results have been really, really great. So
let me just say a couple of words on that, and then I want to hear some of these results.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I just think that's just where it has to be. Everybody wants to promote everything, right? Like I worked on for a corporate client, like just a nightmare project, right? Where you get it through, you kind of like squeaked in like a nice clean design, like it's very professional, it's very clear in its messaging and what it says, and then right at the end, like right when you got like basically a week to launch, and it's a final run through, you just get where's all the social media buttons? Where's this? I don't like that gray background. Get that off. It's like, I don't, you get all of this stuff that has to get changed and added in, all of these add-ins. I want to change the name of this site to this this page, this 5-word, it goes from industries to like a sentence, and you have that in the navigation.
Yeah.
And all of this stuff that they wanted to add in because they couldn't handle not having that thing there that they read in Entrepreneur Magazine or Inc. Magazine that they need to promote their Twitter and Facebook page and all this stuff. And I think that's so counterintuitive to real conversion and real impact and
real
results.
engagement.
Yeah, real engagement.
Yeah.
Because the first thing first of all, there's one call to action across the entire Think Traffic website, basically, and that is, we would really like for you to subscribe.
And here's why.
Here's why. And so, the call to action is subscribe via your email address, and we'll be able to send you updates. You know what I mean? And then there are. I guess I kind of want to talk about a lot of things like those little details of like what does that email say when they get to confirm their email address and all of this other stuff. Like all those things are points at which you get the choice to either delight your audience or just do the regular thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. And I always err on the side of delighting the audience, throw in a little quirky thing, a little personality, a little
you do
value.
And you do that basically by every step of the process. You have to think about every step of the process and review every single one and try to think about it from the audience perspective.
From the visitor's perspective. And that's a really important thing.
Yeah.
You got to know who your audience is and what they're how comfortable are they on websites in general. And like it's a tough thing to add your email. You put your email in, even though like I get a lot of spam. I don't get that much spam.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear people talk about it a bunch. I mean, Gmail does a hell of a good job as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So I had like a real season like 4 months ago where I just subscribed to a bunch of different stuff. Yeah. I wanted to see how they were doing it.
Yeah.
All these like kind of like douchey sites, regular sites, friend sites, I just wanted to see how they're doing it and also what the content was like, what it's like to get emails from people. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I realized, first of all, like when you don't bug me very often, like I'm pretty responsive. And second of all, if I'm really interested in it, I'm really interested in it.
Yeah.
And like, there's a difference between someone who should be in your audience and someone who shouldn't.
Right.
And don't try to win over the first camp. Really try to delight and win over the second camp, like someone who really is supposed to be your audience. Kind of ranting on the audience thing, but I think it's really important and valuable that if you don't know how to say who your audience is, just start paying attention. Mm-hmm. One simple lesson I learned, a tip, I guess, from Derek Halpern, the lovely and fabulous Derek Halpern, is every time someone subscribes, he sends them a little auto-respond message that says, "Thank you for subscribing. Here's one question I have for you. Like, what's one thing you're struggling with as an online marketer right now?" And so I run a site for fathers or new dads, and so I started doing the same thing. I don't even have an autoresponder. I just literally I have a text expander snippet. QFQ expands to this question in the email subject that I send off to them. Yeah. And so it's literally a manual process, but it takes me like 4 seconds. Right. And I do this, and it's so good to hear back from them and be surprised, like, okay, most of these guys actually are in this camp rather than this camp.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of them are struggling with it. Like 60% of them are like in this one question, and then the rest are divvied out between 20. You know, you learn so much about what your next blog post is going to be about, what your next product's going to be about, all of these things. That is the key. And I guess I'll say this one thing, and then I'll let us get on to the results. Sorry, I'm just a designer, but no, I'm a consultant for bloggers who designs, happens to have an aesthetic taste. But this concept of I mean it. They really just wrote the answer to or they just told me what my next product is going to be about. It's going to be about this question that 60% of my audience has told me when I ask them what's the biggest thing you're struggling with right now as a new dad. They will 60% answer with this answer, you know, and it doesn't have to be about new dads, obviously, as an online marketer, as someone who's starting to try a business, as a yoga instructor, as whatever, you know what I mean? Whoever your audience is, what's one thing you're struggling with right now, and as a, you know, to hone it in a little bit.
Yeah.
And now, because now the rest of my days on this site, I'm going to be existing to serve that problem, to serve my audience with that problem.
Yep.
Because now I have a real, honest to God, they have this challenge. And I'm going to do research. I'm going to figure out what the solution is to that. And now I've got what we call in the industry value.
Right.
You know, this is like you have a fish to sell. Is it fresh? Is it good? Is it delicious?
Yeah.
Like now it's valuable, you know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel lost with their sites. And that is one of the fastest ways to get clarity on what you should be doing with your site, is to understand the problem, the need, the desire that your audience has, and then just fill that. You know, just fill that need for them.
Totally.
And then all those questions, you have meaning. You have a role, a purpose. You know, and all of those questions go out the door.
And I did a bunch of research on the audience for Think Traffic, and partly I am a part of that audience because I am, you know, I've been on the site before, and I have been on lots of other sites like it. You know, and I'm interested in these questions. How do I handle email? How do I handle social media? How do I grow my business? How do I grow my audience? You know. But I went through and looked through a lot of the comments. Yeah. You know, I just read a bunch of the comments. I pulled out little pieces of words here and there that I noticed happening more often than once. And this is, you know, hopefully being able to use those in our marketing messages later on.
Yeah.
But one of the things I do have to say about the Think Traffic audience is most of you are quite brave to actually be trying to do this sort of life thing, you know what I mean? Wanting to build a business, wanting to be an entrepreneur, and wanting to actually have achieve a level of freedom, monetarily, and then also like in relationships and in life and business in general.
There's a lot of fear. There's a lot.
That's one of the things that I kind of came across on doing research for your site. It was just like, when you think about it, like in a world full of like, there's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of shysters,
dickheads, whatever.
Numbnuts, I mean, some may call them. And there's just a lot of this all hat and no cattle scenario, a lot of this selling dreams to empty dreams to hopeless people and all this stuff. And then I see you providing real value. I mean, you can't give them a unicorn on a stick, you know what I mean? Because number one, they don't have sticks that big. And number two, there is no number two. But unicorn on a stick. But you can't you're not making up answers, you're not fabricating truths, and people are listening to it, and it looks like, I mean, you guys are actually kind of gambling with your life in some ways, you know what I mean? Kind of really putting things on the line. And this is I'm chosen the same path, you know, I'm in the same boat as you are, that we are entrepreneurs and we're trying to figure this thing out, and I'm committed to this dream of like, I can live with meaning and support my family and have a smile on my face.
And have fun and help people.
Exactly. And afford all that the cocktails that I like to drink. You know what I mean?
Little things.
So I do have to say that to the Think Traffic audience. I applaud you. I think it was inspiring doing research on who you are and what you're about, because, and it was just an honor to really like make a site for you people and for you, Corbett, because you're actually giving honest value versus, you know, the rotten dead fish over here that you couldn't sell last week.
It's pretty easy to differentiate when that's what you're up against.
It is.
It's kind of nice. So one more thing before we get to the results. You know, it's clear, obviously, that you're not just a designer. And this is a tip for when you find a designer, if possible, and it's very rare, if possible, if you can find someone who has thought through your exact business problems and has a fundamental understanding of entrepreneurship and business and the problems you're trying to solve, then you bring so much more to the table than just like, here's something that looks pretty. And something that looks pretty, like you said, you can then bolt on all this bullshit that takes away the usefulness of the design. So I appreciate that. I also appreciated that you bring a sense of wonderment and just why not have fun if we're doing this?
Okay.
And so I think Traffic Now, the site, is more fun than it was, partly because of the look and feel, but also because I let you have free reign with the copy.
I remember that. Yeah, and I remember the email, like when I showed you the home page and the idea that I had for the feature box, just this fucking huge graph, and you're like, it's quite bold. Let's give it a shot.
Right. And then also just the little things like, like in the sidebar, I think it says like, you're here, let's do this. You know, and it's just it just has a lighter, more fun feel, and it's kind of this whole ethos of like, look, this is hard stuff. We're trying to be entrepreneurs. We're doing like crazy, like uncertain things. Why not have fun with it? Yeah. And so I appreciate that, and I'm glad. And it's hard to find a designer that is capable of those things at the same time. So given all of that, given everything that we changed about the site, and we changed the colors, we changed everything. From the ground up, it's basically different. And a couple of the big things that we did, the homepage now is no longer just a listing of the blog posts. It's more of an introduction to the site and a big, bold call to action that basically tells people what the site's all about. And then you have to dig in a little bit deeper, but it also has like a start here page that kind of introduces things. So we did a better job, I think, of engaging first-time visitors. We also, you did a really great job of putting calls to action to sign up for the email list or to check out the traffic toolbox and get a feel for what that's all about in a number of places. So we've gotten some really great results from the site. First of all, this probably was the event that I've gotten the most feedback and praise on in the past 3.5 years. Like people have just said like, wow, this is like mind blowing. Some prominent people like Pat Flynn and some other folks said like, this is the best design I think I've ever seen. So people love it, first of all. I mean, there's always a curmudgeon-y old guy who says, I like
Shlomo.
Right, somebody like that.
Shlomo, I love you, buddy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for the most part, everybody loved it. I think it's like setting a bit of a trend. I think we're going to see some designs that look a little bit more like it. Also, the day that we launched, we had either the highest or the second highest single traffic day in the history of the site. People just checking it out, which was cool. And then probably most importantly, we have increased the number of email signups by 50% month over month. We just finished last month, June. And comparing that to the month before, we had 50% more people sign up than we did before. So, that just accelerates the growth of the entire site. So if people are wondering, does this work? Yes, it worked. And, we removed all the Twitter and Facebook stuff. And we do tell people about it, like after they sign up for email.
In the email.
We say, hey, you can sign up for Twitter, Facebook, whatever. But Twitter and Facebook are still growing just like they were. But the email signups have just like shot through the roof.
So big results on... I guess the biggest result, we got a lot of acclaim and accolade from people, and lots of page views on that. That was like the single most.
Yeah, definitely the most page views ever.
That was on announcing the design. It's such an interesting design. But the big, I guess, takeaway is, so every month you have 50% more subscribers, which is a huge jump. When we're talking about a conversion on a page being, like at 0.8% to 2% of page views get a conversion, it's like that's a huge jump. So that's actually that's exciting. So that so again, I think that happened because it's much more than just we need a design because we want it to look nicer. It's not about the looks. We really got down and deep in and it gets in. Okay, so here's my free consulting for all of the things.
This whole thing.
I remember you were going to pay me for everything up to now, but now it's on the house.
Now it's on.
So one call to action, or I guess even before that, think about the next thing that a visitor is going to do. The one next thing. All right. If you want them to go follow you on Twitter, then just promote that. But I don't think that's the right way to go.
Right.
I think the right way to go is through email. But regardless, one thing, if you think across your entire site, there is really, and you can say, there is one thing that I want someone to do so that I can kind of stay in touch with this person. I'm going to say the right answer is email, but in terms of which one you should be doing. But across the site, you promote that one thing. It's the very next step. Now, there is the resources page that we have on Think Traffic and the getting started page that we have on Think Traffic, as well as the about page. Mm-hmm. Now go look at each one of those pages, specifically the about page, which is converting an awful lot, because it's just communication. There's no like right or wrong answer to this. It's just like, okay, people are landing on the site. We know from analytics, from social media, from tweets, from people forwarding it on to other people. Lots of people are landing on a single post page. So for instance, Write Epic Shit.
Right.
They're landing on that because a friend shared it with them. They land on this page and they read it and they're like, wow, this is pretty good. The content is full on front and center. The headline is fucking massive. Right? And you're just getting straight into the content. That's on a single post page. At the end of that, there's a call to action. Hey, subscribe for email. Maybe you're like, I don't know who you are. This was good stuff, but I'm not ready for that. So what do? Typically, a visitor is going to click on the About page or the Home page.
Or the Home page, exactly.
So we want to make sure that both those pages are meeting that first-time visitor's needs, okay? Yep. The About page, we have this great video. It introduces you to Corbett. We got to teach him how to smile and be a little more dynamic on camera for that next time he does that video. But he's like, I'm Corbett Barr, and I don't want...
I just need you there in the background.
Just fan dancing around. But those resources page, the About page, resources, and the Start Here, all I call resources page, because they offer some value. Who are we? What are we about? Call to action. Subscribe. Then on the About page, there's all these quotes and testimonials from other people. Like, this is how much we love this site. Call to action. You know what I mean? And the same thing with the resources pages. This isn't rocket science. It's like, number one, we're saying, I'm being very clear with you. I would like for you to subscribe to my website. And number two, I'm offering you some value here. Then the are you new here, Start Here page. That actually, I don't know. I didn't see, there's not something I've read that said you should do this, but I just like, there's so much great content on that site that I felt like you needed a little bit of an index to just be like, start here. And also, listen, we're getting better and better each post we release. So here's subscribe and you'll be in the know on the next thing that we do, because the market that we're in constantly is shifting and just new insights and updates all the time.
Yep.
So I think that's our whole, I'll give away all of my secrets right there. You know what I mean? That from that point on, it's just doing the work, writing the posts,
showing up every week,
showing up,
exactly,
actually having good ideas and insights. Like, not many people have good ideas and insights.
Yeah. So for people who are watching this and they're wondering, do I need a new design? Do I need a good design? Do I need to work with a designer? When do I know that? And then how do I do it? Like, what should the progression be? Let's say we're talking to somebody who's been blogging for 6 months and hasn't really gotten good results. Like, how important is design in that? And let me answer that from my perspective. I mean, I think design to me is one of those things that if you can afford it, I want to have every advantage possible in my business. I want to have the best design. I want to have the most contacts with people in the industry. I want to have the best, guest writers. I want to have the best content, all that kind of stuff. You got to level up everything. You know what I mean? And design is one of those things. I think people can debate, is design like the most important thing? Is it the least important thing? Whatever. To me, it's like, who cares? Like, I know that a great design is going to be better than a mediocre design. And I don't know if it's, you kind of have to prioritize. And so that's the question, like, for somebody who's 6 months in, like, where do they prioritize design? Because you know that a great design can do wonders for you, but is that more important than honing in your message, or making more contacts in the industry?
Totally. So for me, here's my answer. First and foremost, I guess I kind of have two answers, or two sort of gut reactions. One of them is, when I land on your site, even if you're just starting out, but you want to build a business out of this thing, if you want to build a business out of it, when I land on your site, I either want to see it very clear and concise, or not concise, but very clear, like the communication is very clear. Or it's very you. Like, it's very authentic, and it's very and even if it's like that, even if it's
raw kind of,
just a regular, just the typical, that one typical WordPress thing. but it's a big picture of you, goofy, shit-eating grin on your face, being like, here's where I say things about life that you should listen to. It's like, okay, what is this? What's happening here?
Yeah, right.
You know, I think that those two are like, so one of them is like, you know, if you look at a lot of the trend in the design world, is a designer has a blog that's just type. It's just clear text and, it's black on white, very, you know, and good proportions and all this stuff. And so it's either that where it's just text with a little head bar and a, you know, and whatever. And or it's I just said head bar, so that's happening. And does somebody smell toes? I'm having a stroke. And then there's either that, very clear and concise, like for instance, like Nerd Gap. Brett Kelly is a friend, and his site just like boom,
straightforward.
Just, and he actually, I don't know who made the little logo of like the there's like little spectacles, like nerdy spectacles, you know, perfect.
Just
like,
a little tiny bit of
small, like that's cool. That a small little like decal on the thing. So either it's very clear and clear like that, there's clarity, or it's very you, and it's had fucking 100 different kinds of fonts and colors and all this weird stuff, and you're, because clearly you're passionate about what you're doing, but regardless, that's my first impression, okay, and now there needs to be substance to it. When I stay on the page for more than a split second, what am I reading? I mean, it really is. It's coming down to your words. It's coming down to your video or your words or whatever content that you're giving. Either I'm interested or I'm not. Either it meets my needs or it doesn't. Either I'm the right person for your audience or I'm not. And so in the end, I think, you know, that what your, you know, content isn't king in the sense that like you have content, so you've won. Right. Content is king in the sense that like it's really good content, so I'm sticking around. So I think that that's really important. That's what I would say. So I would say, you know, for me, I've always used Thesis. And I'm excited to see what Chris does with 2.0. That's going to be really interesting for just a regular old person customizing your site. Even Thesis right now, as a regular old person customizing your site, you can do so much. Going with Thesis in a very simple 2-column, very small sidebar, bigger sort of, you know, type up front. You got all the controls over that. That's exactly what I would do. I would, if I wanted to focus on the content and I didn't have any sort of inspiration naturally on this is the image I want to have, or this is a little logo that my friend designed, anything like that, then I would just stick with something like that. That's what I would do. Focus
on the content, and then after you get the message honed in, that's when you maybe should find somebody to work with. And I recommend so highly that people, when the time is right, they spend the money and they work with a designer, because it's one of those things, you know, we talk about differentiation, your unique selling proposition. How are you hooking people? Design is one of those things that hooks people. It creates an emotional bond with people before they even read your content, and it gives your content a little bit of breathing room and time to shine. Right? Because otherwise, if it's really ugly and I don't see that cute picture of somebody like being goofy, like you said, or whatever, then I'm out of there. You know what I mean?
Totally.
There's so many sites out there. So it's one of those things that can make you stand out. And you, sir, helped us. Thank you very much. Stand out, Think Traffic, and I appreciate it. It's always been a pleasure.
Thank you for the opportunity. I sure am grateful.
There we go.
I got
me.
You're Corbett Barr from Think Traffic.
I'm Corbett Barr from Think Traffic, and
I'm Chase Reeves from Ice to the Brim. I'm Chase Reeves from Internet and Ice to the Brim. I am Chase Wardman Reeves, and this has been 30 minutes of hardball with Corbett Barr.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Thanks everybody. You've been
a lot.
Really super.